Okay, now moving on to the expenses sheet. Um, Let me open the question up. Open the expenses sheet and note that one of the column headings is blank. We will not be able to create a pivot table which includes the data on the expenses sheet if one of the field names that needs to be used in our table is blank. Select cell F4 and enter the following heading for the column. So F यहाँ से 4 यहाँ से F4 tax code. Alright, और इसको थोड़ा बड़ा कर लो. There. Oh fuck. Okay. ताकि एटलीस्ट वर्टिकली भी आ रहा हो तो टैक्स कोड आराम से आ जाए. बट ये यहाँ पर ये इतने बड़े क्यों हैं? जस्ट डिक्रीज इनकी हाइट लाइक सो. ओह शिट. इनकी हाइट like so. Alright. Insert the data on the expenses sheet into an Excel table. If the source data of a pivot table is included in an Excel table, you will not have to edit the source data cell range of the pivot table when you add additional transactions at the bottom of the expenses sheet. Wait, what? Insert the data on the Excel sheet, right, into an Excel table. That's simple. If the source data of a pivot table is included in an Excel table, you will not have to edit the source data cell range of the pivot table when you add additional transactions at the bottom of the expenses table. What it's basically saying is that इस पूरे को select करके just turn it into a table. So you select all of this and then go over to insert table. Boom. And what that does is that it basically makes you don't have to edit source basically this is your source data for your pivot table. This is your source data, right? So you won't have to edit it later on when you need to add additional transactions at the bottom of the expenses table. Expenses pivot table जब बनाएंगे तो उसके बॉटम के ऊपर अगर हम लोग कोई भी वो डाल देना एक्सपेंसेस पिवट टेबल के बॉटम के ऊपर अगर हम लोग थोड़ी और भी क्या कहते हैं एडिशनल ट्रांजैक्शंस डाल दें लाइक एक और डॉक्यूमेंट डेट सप्लायर रेफरेंस डिस्क्रिप्शन टैक्स इंक्लूसिव अमाउंट टैक्स कोड बैंक कोड अकाउंट कोड और पेमेंट डेट अगर डाल दें तो और फिर यहाँ पर वापस आके इस टेबल को रिफ्रेश करें इट विल बेसिक व्हाट इट्स सेइंग इज दैट इट विल बेसिकली एड इट डाउन. ओह माय गॉड. It will basically it will basically add it down. Oh my god. Oh my, bro brother. Okay, it will add it at the bottom. That's all you need to know. It will add it at the bottom. That's all you need to know. All right. So now change the table name to exp table. We will change it to exp table. इसके ऊपर highlight any part of the table. किसी भी फील्ड के ऊपर सेलेक्ट कर लो. गो ओवर टू डिज़ाइन और यहाँ पर नाम आ रहा होगा. चेंज इट टू EXP table. Boom. Now you click away, click back, EXP table. Alright, now EXP table, create a pivot table on a new worksheet which is based on all the cells that have been inserted into the new Excel table. Use the pivot table to display the total tax inclusive amount for each supplier that is included in our source data. We have to display the total tax inclusive amount. Okay. So we go over to insert and we go over to pivot chart. So pivot chart or pivot table चाहिए हमें. अब हमें instead of having to actually select this entire table, we can basically just write exp table and it will select it itself. इसका ये फ़ायदा होता है. New worksheet done. अब उन्होंने हमें बोला हुआ है यहाँ पर क्या क्या इंक्लूड करना है. Use the pivot table to display the total inclusive amount for each supplier that is included in our source data. So हमें समझ आ गया कि सिर्फ total tax inclusive amount for each supplier. ठीक है. Total tax inclusive amount for each supplier. That is all that we need to display. अच्छा, again I will show it to you. Pivot chart दूसरी sheet पे जाके sheet 4 थी. So what you do is you can also say अगर if you don't want to overcomplicate things for yourself, pivot chart and pivot table पे select किया, select this entire table. अगर over complicate नहीं करना अपने आप के लिए, if you want to make it, you know, make sure that it's simple, it's all you need to do. Just और बस यहाँ पर ओके दबा देना है. It's real simple. शीट 11 के अंदर हमारे पास यहाँ पर सब कुछ आ गया है. All right. Use the pivot table to display the total tax inclusive amount for each supplier that is included in our source data. We have done that. Rename the new sheet as suppliers. So sheet rename करने का तरीका यहाँ से होता है. So you go over here and then you click rename and then you can name it suppliers. Another way that you can rename it is by just double clicking on the name. तो मैं sheet 4 के नाम पे click करूँगा. I want to change it to expenses. Just need to double click on it and you can change its name. Right, change the number formatting in the amount section of the pivot table so that the amount include thousand separators and 2 decimal numbers. Use the pivot table feature for this purpose so that the new number formatting is retained after the pivot table is refreshed. Use the pivot table feature for this purpose. Pivot table feature. So pivot table feature, once you click on the pivot table, you go over to analyze, and then you go over to field settings, I think, number format, and then you हाँ यहाँ से ही होता है. अच्छा, so you go over to number format. यहाँ पे you go over to currency में उन्होंने क्या बोला भाई, क्या आना चाहिए? 2 decimal numbers. It can also be a number. You don't need to use that. The 1000 separated, 2 decimal points, 2 decimal numbers. Use the pivot table feature for this purpose so that the number formatting is retained after the pivot table is refreshed. So pivot table setting, field setting यहाँ से होती है, right? Okay दबाना है and there you go, boom, everything, it's now changed. You can basically ensure that हाँ ये preserve cell formatting on update. यहाँ पर pivot table जो यहाँ पर लिखा है ना under pivot table tools analyze के under, just make sure कि यहाँ पर options में जाके you make sure that this is selected. Autofill columns width on update and preserve cell formatting on update. Actually, we'll get to that point later, but preserve cell formatting on update so that whenever on update is basically whenever you refresh it. So whenever you refresh it, it will stay the same. Use the pivot table feature, done. Change the column width of column B, column A, column B to 16. So we will change it to 16, just like that, boom. And ताकि ये सही तरह दिखे, I will wrap this text. Wrap text ये वाली है, I think. Yeah, wrap text is that. There we go. यहाँ पर मैं suppliers लिख देता हूँ. Right. अच्छा, now going back to analyze वाले feature पे and pivot table. Now you saw the other option, auto fit column width on updates. We don't want that because we want it to be set at 16 the entire time. We don't want Excel to change it by itself later on. So make sure you unselect this if this question is given. Change the column heading in column B. Yeah, I already did that because I'm an absolute genius. I do not need Mrs. Instructions. Open the expenses sheet and change the amount in row 16 from 13,000 to 33,000. So go over to expenses, row 16. Row 16. Right, they want me to change this from 13,000 to 33,000, right? Yeah. Enter the wire, 33,000. Now we go over to suppliers, and where is 13,000? Where is 13,000? Where are you? I can't find it, but we will see the change in the grand total. ये हो गया, ये हो गया, ये हो गया. अच्छा हाँ, see यहाँ पर उन्होंने see I'm so far ahead of this. Change the pivot table settings so that the adjusted column width is retained after refreshing the pivot table. So again, how to do that is go over to analyze, go over to pivot table, go over to options, auto fit column widths on update. इसको क्या कहते हैं, make sure that it's not checked और ये वाली checked हुई हुई है. Alright, I have changed that. Open supplier sheet and note that the grand total at the bottom of the pivot table will change. So, and boom, 451, 431 to 451. There we go. Change the order of the supplier's name in column A so that the suppliers are sorted in descending order from Z to A. So, इसके button पे click किया, sort from Z to A. Boom. Real simple. Drill down the source data that makes up the supplier total for the IAS accountant's supplier. So IAS accountants, right? So ये वाला होता है यार drill down का scene. तो उन्होंने क्या मांगा हुआ है यहाँ पर? Oh shit. Drill down to the source data that makes up the supplier total for the IAS. So I will just go with their, I don't know, bro. They haven't given me anything. Their account code, their tax inclusive amount. I will just do that. Yeah, so that's what it will look like then. A drill down. Yeah. So yeah, this is collapsing it. This is expanding it. Another way to do that is just double clicking on it, and then it will basically allow you to drill down. So मुझे इनकी description चाहिए, ठीक है? And then when you click this button, it will give you the description for all of them. Miss hasn't really, I don't really know how to properly do this, so it does look a bit, you know, पुट्ठा लग रहा है थोड़ा बहुत. Plus I do not understand what this question is asking me for, because they've mentioned that there's a drill down the source data that makes up the supplier's total for the IAS. Anyways, that does not matter. Rename the new sheet as IAS. We have done that. We have not done that. Open the expenses sheet and create another pivot table which reflects an expense total for each of the payment dates that are included in amount 1. Okay, so we go over to expenses, we go over to insert, we select our entire table beforehand, just in case you want to select the entire table instead of actually writing exp table or whatever the name of the table is in the heading. Oh, for fuck's sake. Achha, okay, it selected it. Well, if I double click on it, it does not do that. I just have to select the entire thing. Anyways, okay, so I have done that. Go over to pivot chart, exp table, new worksheet, and this one is rename the new sheet as payment, and इसके अंदर क्या आना चाहिए? An expense total, which is a tax inclusive amount for each of the payment dates. Payment date यहाँ पर है. There we go. Yeah, rename the new sheet as payment. So we will do that. Just need to find the sheet. Supplier sheet 12, expense sheet 12. Payments. All right. Complete steps 6 to 9. 6 to 9 are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So ये सबसे पहला वाला step है, change the number formatting the amount section of the pivot table. So we go over to analyze, go over to field settings, go over to number format, go over to number, use thousand separator, 2 decimal places. यहाँ पर OK दबा दिया. Go over to the pivot table, go over to its options, make sure that this is selected and that this is not. Use the pivot table feature for this. Done. Change the column width of column B to 16. And done. इसको wrap text करना होगा, which is, yeah, wrap the text. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so we've already done that, which is basically के let Excel know कि भैंचोद मेरी column की width मत बदलना. We have done that. Alright, now coming back to this, filter the pivot table so that only payment dates on or after 1st January 2012 is displayed. Alright. Okay, so more sort options. नहीं, more options. नहीं. we for this I think we'll go over to um, sort and filter कहाँ होता है. Let me try and find sort and filter, or I can just date filters, right. Custom filter equals तो क्या है. अच्छा हाँ, so let me just make sure I do that again. इस वाले बटन को दबाना है, डेट फिल्टर्स यहाँ पर ये, बिकॉज एक्सेल हैज़ रियलाइज कि ये पूरी फील्ड इट्स फुल ऑफ डेट्स, राइट. सो डेट फिल्टर्स, वैल्यू फिल्टर्स भी हैं, डेट फिल्टर्स भी हैं. कस्टम फिल्टर में जाके सो our filter is filter the pivot table so that only payment dates on or after equals is after or equals to on or after 1st January, right, is after or equal to 1st of January. Okay, bro, I'll just write it myself. 0 2012. Boom. So as you can see, second 2012 से आगे है सारी. It's all after 1st of January 2012. Change the layout of the pivot table so that the individual bank codes are included in separate columns in the pivot table. What? राइट, ये वाला पार्ट ना मुझे पिछली दफ़ा भी इसमें मुश्किल हुई थी. So we need them in separate columns. So bank codes, right? So we want them in separate columns. Bank codes, columns. Yeah, there we go. that was actually easier than I thought. So इसके ऊपर you have the pivot chart options on the side, right? So bank code, they've basically mentioned that they want them on the other side, right? So all I did was bank code मैं भी deselect करूँगा, ठीक है. So they've asked कि bank codes are displayed in a separate column. Bank code, when you select it, it shows up in the axis यहाँ पर category में. All you do is pick it up and throw it in, hold on, if I can somehow, yeah. अच्छा, right, so they want it in a separate column, right. Change the layout of the pivot table so that the individual bank codes are included in separate columns in the pivot table. So bank codes, separate column, that's all you have to do, right. कोई भी जहाँ पर भी hashtags लिखे आ रहे हैं, just double click कर दो उन पे, and so that those values are visible, and there you have it. That's done. I know it looks real stupid, looks real, it's real confusing, but hey, that's none of our concern. It is none of our concern. We are just doing what the questions asked us to. Adjust the column widths of all the columns that are included in the pivot table to 16. Of the columns that are included in the pivot table to 16. The column width of all the columns that are included in the pivot table to 16. So just move them all back to move 16. So now you can check, yeah, that's 16. I'm sure there is an easier way to do it. Let me actually check. Has to be, right? Has to be. I cannot find any way to do it, so I would recommend that you just do it as us tarah hi. It's real simple. It's not that difficult. You can no, that's formatting cells. Column width, yeah, there we go. So just make sure that you change all of these to 16. So you can also select multiple and then go over to column width, make sure that it is 16. Boom. Okay, go over to options, make sure that auto fit column width on update is not selected, and that ये भैंचो तुम्हारी सुन ले. अच्छा, pivot table to 16. Change the formatting style of the pivot table to pivot style medium 20. Yeah, so ये tip बहुत important है. Hover your mouse over the appropriate image in the pivot table style section of the appropriate ribbon tabs in order to display a description for each of the pivot table styles. So you go over to design और यहाँ पर pivot styles आ रहे हैं. So you click on this expand button, and then उन्होंने क्या बताया हुआ है कि क्या है, medium pivot style medium 20, pivot style medium 20. So यहाँ medium है, यहाँ light है और यहाँ dark है, medium 20. So 13, 14, so I think 20 will be down here, 17, 19, and then this is pivot style. Okay, अब क्यों नहीं आ रहा? Hold on. Yeah, pivot style medium 20, you select that. Alright, that is it, that is done. That's how you make a pivot table. Not that difficult. Drill down करने के लिए you have to double click on whatever you need to drill down. उसके बाद वो पेपर के अंदर बता देंगे, अभी नहीं बताया था बट पेपर के अंदर बता देंगे कि ड्रिल डाउन करके क्या दिखाना है, एंड देन यू कैन जस्ट सेलेक्ट दैट उधर से ही. कॉलम दूसरी में करने का मैंने दिखा दिया है. यू जस्ट नीड टू मेक श्योर दैट यहाँ पर highlight the table, make sure you're highlighting the table not the chart. Pivot table के ऊपर highlight करके when you will originally include bank account bank code, वो यहाँ rows के अंदर आएगा. Just make sure that you drag it to columns because they've asked for it to be in a separate column. That's all you have to do. Alright, so that covers everything in Excel. I don't think there is anything left. So yeah, खुदा हाफिज़, have fun, best of luck for your exams. अच्छी तैयारी करके आना. इंशाल्लाह सब कल पास होंगे. एंड खुदा हाफिज़.